guys, and welcome back to Gap Grace Point Online. Remember, we're in the series where we're looking at the power of three. If you haven't caught up with us in a while, let me catch you up. So the power of three is our series where we look at, in the Bible, how the number three is used. In the Bible, we see that the number three is used over 400 times. But this is important. It's not just coincidence. The number three in the Bible shows us the power, the perfection, and the completion of something. It's also a little wake-up call to us when we read the Bible to say, hey, this is important. Take note of what happens. And so today we look at three friends. This is the story of Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. And these are three ordinary people that we find in the time of Jesus. But their story is really important. And so today I'd like to read to you a story. It's not quite from the Bible, but it's based on the Bible words. It's put together in story form for us so that we can better understand it. It's based on the text from Luke 10, verse 38 to 42, and John 11, verse 1 to 46. And so this is the story of Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. Mary, Martha, and their brother Lazarus lived together in Bethany, a small town in Judea near Jerusalem. They were faithful followers of Jesus, and Jesus loved them very much. One day, while Jesus was visiting them, Martha was busy cleaning the house and preparing food. She wanted to be sure that Jesus was well cared for. Instead of helping Martha, Mary sat at Jesus' feet, listening to him. And the harder Martha worked, the more upset she became with Mary. Finally, Martha complained, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Ask her, therefore, to help me." Jesus understood Martha's feelings, and he answered tenderly, "Martha, Martha, you are careful and troubled with many things. But one thing is needed, dear Martha, and Mary has chosen that good part." Jesus wanted Martha to know that it was important for her to care for her home, and that he appreciated everything she was doing for him. But it was even more important to learn about God and to grow spiritually. Sometime later, their brother Lazarus became seriously ill, and Mary and Martha were worried. They knew that Jesus could make Lazarus well, but he was with his disciples in Perea. They immediately sent a message to Jesus, "Lord, the one you love is sick." When Jesus heard this, he said, "He will not die for the sickness, but it is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified in this day." Jesus stayed in Perea 2 more days. Then he said to his disciples, "Let's go to Judea again." The last time Jesus had been in Judea, the people had threatened to stone him. They were angry with him because he had said he is the Son of God. Jesus' disciples were worried about him returning to Judea, and they tried to persuade him not to go. But Jesus said, "Our friend Lazarus is sleeping, and I need to go and wake him up out of that sleep." His disciples did not understand what Jesus meant. They thought Lazarus was just resting. Then Jesus plainly said, "Lazarus has died." When Jesus and his disciples neared Bethany, they discovered that Lazarus had laid in his tomb for 4 days. Many of Mary and Martha's friends were visiting the sisters to comfort them. Then, hearing the news of Jesus' arrival, Martha ran to meet him, crying, "Lord, if you'd been here, my brother had not died." Then Martha showed her great faith by adding, "But I know, even now, whatever you ask of God, God will give to you." Tenderly, Jesus said, "Your brother will rise again." Martha replied, "I know that he will rise again at the resurrection." Then Jesus taught her an important lesson. He said, "I am the resurrection and the life. And if you believe in me, even though you are dead, you will live again. And so whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this?" Martha answered, "Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God." Martha then returned home and told Mary, "The Master has come and called for you." Mary left quickly, followed by her friends. When she reached Jesus, she fell down at his feet, and she said too, "Lord, if you'd been here, my brother had not died." Seeing Mary and her friends weeping, Jesus felt sad and troubled, and he asked them where the body of Lazarus was. While they walked to Lazarus' tomb, Jesus wept, and the people said, "See how Jesus loved him." Many of the people had seen and heard of the miracles Jesus had performed, and they wondered why he had not saved his dear friend Lazarus from the dead. They did not know that Jesus had a reason for letting Lazarus die. A big stone covered the entrance to the tomb. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha hesitated, saying, "Lord, by this time his body will stink, because he has been dead for 4 days." Then Jesus turned to Martha and said, "Did I not say to you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" Then they took away the stone, and Jesus lifted his eyes up to the Lord and said, "Father, I thank you that you've heard me." Then he cried out with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." Lazarus, still wrapped in his grave clothes, came out. Jesus asked the people to unwind the cloth that covered Lazarus' face and his arms and legs. He was alive. He could see and feel and walk and talk, and people were amazed. They had never seen such a demonstration of power over death. And so, as cool as this lesson is today, as cool as the story is to hear about the miracles and the power of Jesus over death, there's got to be some application for us. And so there's 3 important things we can learn from this lesson today. Number 1 is that we need to listen to God. When Jesus first comes to visit this family, Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, one of them is sitting down at Jesus' feet, listening. This is Mary. And then we find Martha, who's in the kitchen, in her home, cleaning and cooking. Martha gets really upset because she's doing everything. And she goes to Jesus and says, "Jesus, don't you care about me? I'm doing everything, and Mary's not even helping me." And Jesus says, "I hear your troubles, and I see you're concerned." He says he's grateful and he understands it, because he knew that she was doing this as an act of love for him. But he says to her, "There's one thing that you need to do, and that is listen." And that's what your sister has decided to do. Mary was sitting at the feet of Jesus, listening, because she knew how important it was to hear about God and to grow her spirituality. And so Jesus teaches Martha that day that it's really important to stop and listen to God. And so we too need to take those moments to stop and listen to God. In the same way, we need to take time to read our Bibles and to pray. And as we do this, not just to read our Bible and to close it, but to stop and say, "God, what are you saying to me? And why is this important? How can I apply what you have now taught me?" Number 2 is we need to work hard, but we need to grow spiritually. Martha's work was important to Jesus. He appreciated her for working hard and caring for the fact that he would eat and that he would have a clean house to come to. But it wasn't just about the work. It was about listening and growing spiritually. And so we can serve God. We need to serve God. But we must also take the time to grow spiritually. I want to show you something real quick. So imagine this is us. We're this cup. Now, I'm not going to fill this up with water because it might just get a bit messy. But pretend there's water in this cup. Imagine if your work, the work that God had given you to do, was simply to fill up others and just to keep pouring out. Imagine the whole world of cups. All the billions of people on this earth were cups. And if your job was now to fill every single one of this cup, you would just be able to pour and pour and pour. But eventually your cup would be empty and you wouldn't be able to pour anymore. And then what? What would be left over of your life? You'd have worked for God, but not gained anything. And so for us, we need to work hard for God, but we also need to make sure that we're growing spiritually. We can't just be pouring out, pouring out, pouring out. At some point, we need to be filled. And so we come before God as we grow spiritually and say, "God, please won't you fill me?" We get filled by taking time to spend with God. Spending time in the presence of God, reading His Bible, praying and learning about Him. It's really important. Working hard is good, but we need to grow spiritually. And then the last thing we need to learn is that we need to trust in God and believe in His power. When Jesus is told about Lazarus' death, he does come back to Bethany. But he stays where he was for a little bit longer because he knew that this wouldn't end just in death of Lazarus, but that he would be able to teach people about God through this miracle that he would perform. And so the people needed to trust in Jesus. They needed to believe that he would come and he would perform a miracle. That's why they said to him, if you'd been here, he wouldn't have died. They know the power of Jesus. They trusted in his power and they believed in him. But they didn't see how this was going to work out for the good. Yet, Jesus raised him from the dead back to life to show how powerful God is. And so in the same, in our lives, we need to trust God for his will. He's got a plan for everything that happens in your life. And we need to trust in his power, even when it seems like things are going wrong. In the same way, Jesus is still performing miracles through people today. Remember how we have the Holy Spirit living inside of us? Well, that Holy Spirit gives us the power of God. All of God's power is accessible to us. We just need to trust in his power and trust in God to do the miracles that he calls us to do. And so our memory verse for today comes from the book of John, chapter 11, verse 25 to 26 in the NIV. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live even though they die, and whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this? That's it from us today, guys, here at Gap Grace Point. We'll see you next week for the next lesson of our Power of 3. Bye!